During my husband's promotion party, I declined to co-sign a loan for his sister. She threw her drink at me, shouting, "You're just a gold digger." My husband smirked and said, "Maybe she doesn't deserve to be part of this family." I laughed and announced, "Funny, since I own this house, and you're all trespassing." I, 38 female, met my husband Kyle, 41 male, 12 years ago in Raleigh, North Carolina. He was charming, smart, and said all the right things. We were both in our late 20s, and I had just opened my second real estate office. He was working in IT support at a mid-sized tech company. Not a high roller, but he had potential, or so I thought. At first, everything seemed fine. Kyle talked a big game about wanting to build a life, be a team, and grow together. I was already doing well for myself, owned my first home, drove a car I bought in cash, and had zero debt. He told me he admired that. Fast forward to our wedding. He didn't contribute a dime. Not 1 cent. Said he was between raises. I paid for everything from the venue down to the thank you cards. I even flew in his family from Illinois. His mom cried at the ceremony and told me I was an angel for taking care of her baby boy. I laughed then. Looking back now, it makes me sick. We moved into my house after the wedding. My house. Paid off, 3 bedrooms, perfect yard, great neighborhood. The mortgage had been in my name for years. Kyle never once offered to put his name on it or help with the taxes. Said it made more sense for me to handle that stuff since I understood it better. I didn't think much of it at the time. I was used to taking care of things. But the real shift started about 2 years ago. Kyle started climbing the ladder at work. Suddenly, he was leading projects, getting recognition, going to conferences. His suits got nicer. He started staying out later. Got a new car. Leased in his name, but I later found out the down payment came from a borrowed $5,000 out of our joint account. Then came the comments. Little jabs in front of people. "Oh, she's the boss at home. She likes control." Or, "Must be nice to marry rich, right?" His friends would laugh. I'd smile tight-lipped and excuse myself. He'd say I was being too sensitive. Still, I supported him. I showed up to his company parties, cheered for his promotions, and kept our house running while he played businessman. I even covered the bills the months he forgot to move money from his account. So, when he finally got his big promotion, senior systems manager or something like that, I threw a party. For him. I hosted 30 people in our house. Ordered catering, decorated the place, made sure everything looked perfect. His parents came in. His sister, Melissa, flew in from Chicago. She's the type of person who thinks manifesting abundance means skipping your credit card bills and praying over rose quartz. I was civil to Melissa, even though I've never liked her. She's never worked longer than 6 months at a time, and every time she visits, she either forgets her wallet or accidentally signs me up for something. Anyway, it's late into the night. People are buzzed, toasts are happening, music's low. I'm near the kitchen grabbing fresh wine when Melissa corners me, all fake smiles and clinking glass. She leans in and says, "Hey sis, real quick, could you co-sign a loan for me? Just a formality. I'm opening a crystal and candle shop, and I need to show more financial backing. You've got that great credit, right?" I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. I looked her straight in the face and said, no. Her whole vibe changed. The smile dropped. She narrowed her eyes and stepped closer. "What do you mean no? You live in this big house, throw parties, act like you're better than everyone." "I'm not acting like anything," I said calmly. "I just don't lend my name to people who don't pay their phone bills." I tried to walk away. She followed me. "You selfish B***tch," she hissed. "All you do is take from this family. You're a goddamn gold digger." And before I could even react, she threw her drink right in my face. A full glass of red wine. Right across my blouse. All over the floor, the rug, the counters. The music stopped. Everyone turned. There I stood, wet, dripping, stunned. And Kyle? He didn't rush to defend me. He didn't scold his sister. He smirked. Then he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, maybe she doesn't deserve to be part of this family. I stood there for maybe 2 seconds, just looking at him. Then I turned to the room, full of his friends, his family, his coworkers, and I said, loud and clear, that's funny. Because I own this house. Which means you're all trespassing. Silence. Just stunned silence. Melissa's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Kyle's parents looked like they wanted the floor to swallow them whole. And Kyle? His smirk dropped for the first time all night. I walked out of the room, dripping wine, grabbed a towel, wiped off my face, and called my lawyer the next morning. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my office, yes, my home office, the one Kyle always joked looked too serious for a woman, and wrote down everything I could remember. Every dime I'd spent on him, every time he borrowed from me, every bill I paid alone. I pulled up bank records, credit card statements, even text messages. I made a folder. Labeled it Exit Plan. That Monday, I met with my lawyer, Trina. She's sharp, never smiles much, and doesn't waste time. I handed her the folder, and she flipped through it quietly. After about 10 minutes, she looked at me and said, "You've got enough here to protect everything you own. But if you want to play offense, we'll need more." More? I had plenty. I just hadn't told her yet. See, here's the thing. While Kyle was busy climbing the ladder and playing the successful husband in public, he was getting sloppy in private. He'd been using our joint account for business expenses that looked suspicious, meals for two in cities he wasn't supposed to be in, hotel charges, cash withdrawals. I had questions. He had excuses, but I stopped asking. Instead, I hired a private investigator. It was a quiet move. I didn't tell anyone, not even my best friend. A month before the party, I had already started suspecting something wasn't right. And now, with the way he smiled when his sister humiliated me in front of everyone, I knew my gut had been right. 2 weeks after the party, I had the report in my hands. Kyle had been seeing someone else. Her name was Brittany, 29, worked in marketing at some firm downtown. The photos made me sick. Him holding her hand outside a steakhouse, checking into a boutique hotel, her sitting on his lap at a bar. The timestamp matched a night he told me he was working late on a server migration. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I scanned everything, added it to the folder, and locked it in my filing cabinet. Then I started phase 2. First, I shut down the joint account. Left him a flat $200, enough to notice, but not enough to pay his precious BMW lease. Then I transferred the rest into a new account in my name only. Legally, it was all mine. I'd been the one funding it. Next, I called a locksmith and had all the locks changed while Kyle was at work. When he got home that night, he stood on the front porch pounding on the door like a lunatic. I opened it just a crack and handed him a manila envelope. Inside, copies of the bank statements, screenshots of his texts with Brittany, and a letter from Trina letting him know we were filing for divorce. "You're not serious," he said, his voice shaking. "I'm deadly serious," I said. "This house is mine. My name's the only one on the deed. You have 5 minutes to get what you can carry. After that, I'm calling the police." He tried to push past me. I slammed the door shut in his face and called the cops anyway. They escorted him off the property. He got to take one duffel bag and his wounded pride. The next morning, his family started calling. His mom said I was being dramatic. His dad told me I should forgive and focus on fixing things. Melissa sent me a text that just said, "Karma's a bitch." I didn't reply. But I wasn't done yet. 2 days later, I showed up to Melissa's rented apartment with a printout of her financial records. Turns out, the boutique she wanted the loan for, she had already defaulted on 2 previous business loans. She owed nearly $18,000 in back taxes. And she was using Kyle's name to apply for more lines of credit. I dropped the papers on her doorstep and rang the bell. When she opened the door and saw me, she looked smug. What do you want now? Just thought you'd want to know, I said. Fraud's a felony. And Kyle's name isn't worth much anymore. I walked away without waiting for a reply. But that wasn't even the worst part for her. Melissa went quiet after that. For a few days. Then, out of nowhere, she posted a long rant on Facebook. She didn't mention me by name, but it was obvious who she meant. She called me a toxic influence, accused me of ruining a good man, and claimed I was jealous of her spiritual journey. She even hinted that I'd sabotaged her business by spreading lies to the bank. I didn't respond. I didn't have to, because a week later, the IRS put a freeze on her accounts. Turns out, when you owe that much money and someone submits a report with all your shady filings, complete with screenshots, receipts, and a neat little summary, you get their attention real fast. Especially when the fraud connects to multiple failed LLCs and suspicious PayPal activity under her name and her boyfriend's. But let's get back to Kyle. He didn't take the divorce well. He moved into a cheap extended-stay motel on the outskirts of Raleigh. Not exactly the high-rise apartment he was used to posting selfies from. I know because someone sent me screenshots of his burner Twitter account, where he'd started tweeting angry quotes about ungrateful women and losing everything to greed. Then came the emails. At first, they were calm. Cold. He asked about the house. Wanted to know if there was a chance we could sort this out privately. He mentioned optics, said his boss was already asking questions. Then they got desperate. He apologized. Said Brittany meant nothing. Said he was under pressure and made mistakes. Asked if we could do counseling. Asked if I would consider mediation instead of court. I ignored every message, because I had one more move to make. See, Kyle had been building his image at work as this dependable, steady leader. Mr. Family Man. Always showed off pictures of our house. Even gave a presentation last quarter about how strong homes support builds workplace performance. So I sent a polite, professional letter to his company's HR department. I let them know about the financial abuse, the potential fraud from the joint account, and included a few carefully selected photos of him and Brittany on nights he was supposed to be working off-site. I didn't ask for anything. I just said I wanted them to be aware, as his wife, during our pending divorce. 3 days later, I heard from a friend who works in the same building. Kyle was escorted out with a box of his stuff. Not fired, but suspended pending investigation. That's HR speak for, don't come back until we decide if you're a legal risk. By now, my phone was full of messages from Kyle, his mom, his dad, and Melissa. You've made your point. This is going too far. Think about what this is doing to the family. I didn't reply. Instead, I filed the divorce paperwork officially, with a list of all assets I owned before marriage. The house, the cars, the savings. Everything documented. Everything legally mine. But I wasn't done. Not quite. Because I found something else in the investigator's report I hadn't noticed at first. Something that would make everything worse for Kyle. Buried deep in the investigator's report, under a section labeled Miscellaneous Activity, was a note about a storage unit. Rented in Kyle's name. Opened 3 months before the promotion party. Paid in cash. That caught my eye. I called the PI and asked for more details. He said he'd gotten the info from a financial trace. Kyle had been pulling small amounts of cash weekly and using it to pay for this unit on the edge of town. He hadn't looked inside. Said he didn't want to overstep. But the key and location were included in the file. So I drove out there. The unit was in a sketchy strip of concrete boxes behind a broken gate. No cameras. No office on site. Just rows and rows of rusting roll-up doors. Kyle's was number 212. I unlocked it, pulled up the door, and my stomach turned. Inside were boxes. Stacks of electronics still in packaging. Laptops, tablets, some gaming consoles. Some with shipping labels ripped off, others without any packaging at all. In the back was a locked file box. I cracked it open with a small pry bar I brought, expecting old photos or maybe more receipts. It was worse. Inside were printed spreadsheets of transactions, customer names, payment info, product serial numbers. It looked like some kind of shady resale scheme. I don't know how he got it all, but I recognized a few brands from his company. Kyle had been skimming inventory, reselling tech through dummy accounts, pocketing the cash. And if I found this? His company's internal audit team definitely could too. I snapped photos of everything, sent them to Trina. She didn't even blink. This could move the case into criminal territory, she said. You sure you want to go this far? I didn't hesitate. Absolutely. I gave her the green light to report it. Within a week, Kyle's suspension turned into termination. Then came the police visit. It wasn't an arrest, not yet, but they took his statement, asked questions about the storage unit, the goods, the money. He called me that night, voice trembling, begging me to back off. Said I was ruining his life. You did that all by yourself, I said. I just made sure everyone saw it. Melissa tried one more stunt. She showed up at my office. Not the house, she knew better. My business. Where I had clients waiting in the lobby. She barged in, demanded I stop destroying her family, and screamed about revenge going too far. I didn't even flinch. I stood up, walked to the door, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, Melissa, unless you want me to forward your fraud reports to the state attorney, I suggest you leave. She stormed out, but I noticed something in her eyes. Not just rage. Fear. I was finally hitting them where it hurt. But revenge like this doesn't come without consequences. A few days later, something happened that caught me off guard. One of Kyle's old coworkers, Jack, called me. I barely knew him, just met once at a holiday party. He told me Kyle was spreading a story around that I had sabotaged his job, leaked company secrets, and framed him for the theft. Jack didn't believe it, said most people didn't, but some did. And now I had a choice to make. Go quiet, or burn every last bridge he had left. Jack's call shook me more than I expected. I'd been playing everything by the book, no lies, no setups, just truth and exposure. But Kyle was twisting the story, making me out to be some unstable ex-wife who ruined his life for sport. He said I was bitter, that I was never happy for his success, that I hated his family, that I was obsessed. And some people believed him. Clients started asking quiet questions. A few leads I'd been nurturing suddenly ghosted me. A vendor canceled a deal. I felt it all start to close in. Like I was becoming the villain in my own story. I'd gone this far to get justice, but now I was starting to drown in the backlash. That night, I poured myself a drink and sat on the patio, thinking about what came next. I'd already taken everything I could from Kyle. His job, his reputation, his home, his family was fractured. Melissa was under IRS review. His parents barely spoke to him. And me? I was alone, in a big house, with a lot of silence. The next day, I made one final move. I wrote a letter. Not to Kyle, not to Melissa, but to their parents. I told them everything. The cheating, the money, the stolen tech, the storage unit, the IRS mess. Every detail. I included copies of the files, the receipts. I laid it out clean. But I didn't ask for anything. I ended it with this. I'm not trying to win anyone over. I'm not looking for revenge anymore. I just want you to know the truth because he never will tell it. I mailed it. Certified. A week later, I got a single text from Kyle's mom. We didn't know. We're sorry. That was it. Kyle never reached out again. Last I heard, he was working part-time tech support for a small company in Greensboro. Brittany left him once the money dried up. Melissa lost her boutique deal completely and had to move back home. And me? I kept the house. The business survived, though I had to rebuild some trust. I stayed quiet for a while. I didn't date. Didn't party. I worked. I walked. I sat in the quiet and thought about everything. I realized something important. I wasn't innocent either. I let things slide. I ignored red flags. I stayed too long, protected someone who didn't deserve it, and got comfortable in a role where I carried all the weight just to keep the peace. That was my mistake. I gave him too much power over my life. So no, I don't regret the revenge. He earned every bit of it, but I also learned that winning doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it just feels like being the last one standing. And sometimes that's enough.